Hello and welcome to today's Facebook Live Business Series. I'm Jessica Pantermuehl, lead instructor for the Nutritional Therapy Association's Career Development course. Here at the NTA, we're not only committed to providing you with an exceptional education in foundational holistic nutrition, we're also here to help support you with the business side of things. And that's why I'm so excited to be joined here today with Bella Grace. Bella Grace is a nutritional therapy practitioner. She's a certified essential oils coach, a holistic health activist, and a toxin-free living educator. She's the founder and the CEO of Bella Grace Wellness, a company that provides personalized nutrition solutions, real food recipes, chemical-free living tips, natural remedies, and more. Bella's inspiration came from her brother, Billy, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. It was clear that when Billy was living a toxin-free lifestyle, he was happier, healthier, and thriving. Bella is going to be sharing her experience about turning a hardship into a passion and turning your passion into a thriving business. So Bella, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited and honored to be here with you guys.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, diving right in here, the first question I have for you is, I'd love for you to share just a little bit more about your journey of becoming an NTP and your why behind starting Bella Grace Wellness. I know in your introduction, I told the audience a little bit about that, a little bit about you, but I'd love to hear it from you and just more about that decision and your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's really two main parts of my why, so to say. The first, as you mentioned and briefly went over, is all to do with my brother, Billy. Billy was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2, and he's just 1 year younger than me. So I was young at the time, but I've heard this story and grown up with it now. Billy is now 21. But when Billy was first diagnosed, we were told by the medical community that Billy basically didn't have a chance. He was never going to talk, never going to live a life with purpose. And that just didn't really cut it for my family. My dad was so prepared never to give up on Billy. So he actually went back to school and studied.
It looks like, I'm not sure if I'm frozen or Bella's frozen. I'm not hearing Bella anymore, so let me just a moment. Stand by, please. If in the comments, if you guys could just let us know if you can hear me and if you can hear Bella, that would be amazing. If anybody who's on on the Facebook Live right now, if you could just pop a comment into that chat box and let me know. Okay, so I'm hearing that Bella's frozen, but that you guys can hear me. So what we're gonna do is we are just going to, okay, and also Mallory mentioned that she can hear me, but not Bella. Okay, so I'm just messaging with Bella here. Oh, Jasmine says she can hear us both. Okay, exciting. So I'm just gonna have Bella hop off here and then we're gonna have her sign back on and we're gonna see if that's fixed. Ooh. Can you hear me, Bella?
I can hear you and see you fine. Can
okay,
you
great.
Hear or see me?
I can hear you and see you fine now as well.
Okay, perfect.
Great. And then just to check in with our audience, can everybody hear both of us and see both of us at this point as well? Yeah.
Yay.
All good now. Okay, great.
Awesome. Well, thank
Sorry
you
about
for
that,
being patient, guys. No worries. So basically, yes, I'll jump back in where I left off. My dad went back to school, learned holistic nutrition, and when he graduated, created a personalized, unique protocol for Billy, which included eating real food, funnily enough, and targeted supplementation. And within a year, Billy had regained some of his speech. And we've continued eating real organic food and working with Billy to improve his health. And he's now 21, and you can have an amazing conversation with him. In fact, he's actually doing the reading at my wedding next month. So so basically that was my first wake-up call to, okay, there's something here with what you put into your body and how you function. The second half of my why is related to me. So when Billy was diagnosed and we, put him on this protocol, the entire family was eating really well. And I, of course, was thriving in school and doing great. But when I hit my teenage years, I became the typical rebellious teen and went out with my friends to eat Krispy Kreme donuts and pot noodles and all of these, things with loads of different additives and preservatives and just kind of your standard junk food. And of course, as you can imagine, I started experiencing a myriad of health issues, digestive issues, especially, as well as just irregular periods, inability to concentrate, my grades plummeted. And I was just feeling really icky about myself. Mental health too, depression, anxiety was at an all-time high. And I would come back from school, bringing these naughty, so to say, foods into the house. And Billy would get really upset because he was confused. Why can Bella eat these foods and not me? So I took it upon myself to start creating recipes. And I've always been into baking and cooking, but this was a new challenge because it was, doing it for Billy with his dietary restrictions, so to say. But I fell in love with what I was making for him. And eventually I kind of did this 180 turn and started eating right again, eating real nourishing foods to support myself. And of course, I immediately felt the difference. So that was my second wake-up call, like, hello, I'm eating great again. And all of my symptoms have gone. I feel amazing. And so it was really a no-brainer for me that I wanted to go into this industry and really set up a business that was going to provide hope for families with autism and also just educate people that real food can be enjoyable, it can be delicious, and just this huge importance of actually how it can make you feel on a day-to-day basis.
That's incredible. And was it at that point that you decided to become a nutritional therapy practitioner, or at what point sort of did that transition occur?
Yeah, so as you can tell, probably here, I'm from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved here about 5 years ago to study my undergrad. And I actually started studying dietetics, but I was really struggling with the curriculum because my personal testimony and Billy's personal testimony was eating this real food, nutrient-dense diet that I was so familiar with. And I wasn't really getting what I was looking for from my education at a four-year university. So I switched my major, and actually I got it in journalism, which has been really helpful for my business. And I decided, right, I want to go into a more all-inclusive, holistic type route. And the NTA was perfect for me. The curriculum was spot on with my ideals, and most importantly, what I had seen and witnessed in Billy and in my own health. So it was a no-brainer, and I'm so glad I did, because it really provided me with the education I needed to feel confident in myself, to be able to actually help others and to share what I've learned. So, yeah.
Incredible. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And so when you first started creating those recipes,
yes.
At what point did you decide to start sharing them with others? Because you were creating these recipes, transitioning away from some of that junk food that you had gotten into as a teenager, starting to create these recipes. I'd love to hear about kind of how that entered in with sharing them.
Yeah, totally. And the funny thing is it was actually something later on. It wasn't until I moved to America and was probably in my junior year of college. So that's about 5 or 6 years after I started creating these recipes. And I was just creating them and saving them to my computer for the longest time. And I had probably over 500 real food recipes stored on my computer that I wasn't sharing with anyone. And then one night my parents were having a dinner party, and they asked me to create like a grain-free meal for someone who was on a restricted diet. And so I whipped out one of my recipes, and everyone was saying, wow, this food is really amazing, and it doesn't contain the added junk that you would think. And they said, give me the recipe. And so I thought, I should probably maybe share these with people because they could benefit. So I did, and I created my blog. which now has those recipes on there, and I upload new ones daily. So yeah, it's now for the public to enjoy too.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I would love to hear about what some of your initial challenges were when you, after having that concept of, okay, I'd like to start sharing this. Did you have any sort of familiarity with the world of blogging? Or was this a whole brand new kind of space for you and you had some technical difficulties with it? Because I know that can be kind of intimidating for a lot of practitioners.
Totally.
They want to start a blog, they want to start something online, and they're like, how do I go about doing this?
Yes.
So I'd love to hear that transition for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I was very lucky in the sense that I had some brief training from my journalism degree at school, but the actual world of blogging is something totally different, especially when you're doing it as your career and, you know, you want to be able to support yourself, but also do what you love. And so it's definitely been a learning experience for me. And that is kind of my biggest advice to anyone who's starting off is, firstly, do not compare yourself to other people. I think social media is a beautiful tool, but it's also a horrible tool because, you know, you can get great inspiration from others and connect. And there's so many benefits to social media. But I think a lot of people, including myself when I first started out, fell into the trap of comparison. And so I would see all these successful bloggers and think, gosh, you know, I want that. Why doesn't my blog look like that? And my first blog, I think it's maybe even, you guys can honestly Google it if you want, but it was just this little blogspot page. It was just a basic template, had nothing pretty or fancy about it. And I would just write my little recipes out every day. And then eventually, you know, as I've learned more as the years have gone on, I've been able to create something that I'm really proud of. But please know that it's a journey. You know, you start at the beginning and you are exactly where you need to be. Just learn as much as you can, but don't feel stressed or pressured by other blogs. You have your unique style, your unique voice, and just learn each day. And eventually, you know, you'll get there as long as you never give up.
I love that you brought that up. And I just so love how you touched on that comparison there as well. We had our Austin Business Summit this past weekend, our NTA Advanced Austin Business Summit. And that this was something that had come up on a panel we were doing as well with, you know, how do you overcome this very common compare and despair trap? Because it's so common for all of us, regardless of what level of business you're at. But I think especially when you're just starting out, when you're trying to understand what are they doing, how have they been successful, and then it can kind of lead into this dwindling spiral of just like really not a great place. And there's a great quote that I love, which is, comparison is the thief of joy.
It's
and
true.
I just resonate with that so much. And so thank you for bringing that up here, because I think it's such a valuable lesson for new practitioners and practitioners, regardless of what stage of business they're in, for them to hear that and hear that again and again, so we can remind ourselves. And what would you say were some of your strategies that you use to kind of deal with that compare and despair trap that you experienced as well? Yeah,
totally. I think the main thing is also knowing that what's working for someone else isn't necessarily going to work for you. We all have our communities and our own unique personalities who attract different types of people. And, you know, each generation, each community all has different ways and tools of connecting with people. And so for me, because of Billy's diagnosis and my why, majority of my followers and clients are within this autism community. And majority of these people are on Facebook. And so I've really built my brand and social media presence by kind of getting plugged into this community, getting in the Facebook groups, building connections, building friendships. But that's not necessarily going to work for everyone else. You know, someone in a different scope, different niche will probably, you know, maybe experience something else that's going to benefit them. So I think when I first started off, I was looking at, you know, people who were doing certain strategies such as like SEO, marketing, or paid Instagram ads. And that might work great for someone, but it doesn't work for me. So I think just really trusting your own intuition, finding your community, and it sounds silly and probably bad advice, but you'll figure it out. Once you get your community, you'll learn to know where those people are, and how to build these relationships with people and build your business. My biggest bit of advice to everyone is just stay authentic, because you are you, and people will love you for you. You don't need to be anyone else.
Yes, that's such good advice. Thank you. And to that point, actually segues really beautifully into my next question, which was, if you could give advice to people who, let's say they had a tragedy in their own lives, or they've experienced a hardship and they would like that they've overcome, or that they feel like they can share something that they've learned from that hardship.
Yeah.
What are some of those first steps that you would suggest somebody starting from that and transitioning that into a business, into a profitable business? Can you take us through kind of the path or journey that you would recommend that people start to follow or look at for that?
Yeah, totally. I think for me, the first kind of step was truly figuring what exactly my passion was. And I think kind of questions you can ask yourself are, what do you truly love doing? What do you love talking about? What is that thing that you could ramble on and on and on about for ages, regardless if anyone was actually listening to you or not? What are you excited to just read and learn more and more about? And for me, that was helping people like my brother and helping people like me as a teenager. And so it kind of clicked. And I believe that everyone has a specific calling. And I think that calling is what you are so fired up about. And so firstly, I think truly kind of listen to your own intuition and find out what that passion is, because I believe that passion is one of the biggest things for success in a business. I think if you're truly passionate, you will always find a way to make it work. I know that's true for me with my Bella Grace Wellness, that sometimes it seems like there's not always a way, but I'm really, really determined to always find a way, because I don't want people to lose hope, like, at the beginning of Billy's diagnosis. So once you've found your passion, and that's the biggest thing, how on earth do you turn it into a money-making career where you can actually support yourself? So I think, again, it depends on what your passion is. But for me, it's nutrition. And I'm sure some of you watching are probably in the same boat. And so for me, it was, how do I turn this passion into something where I'm actually confident and able to help others? And the NTA was actually my vessel and kind of shifting me from this hardship into a passion into a career. So definitely find somewhere where you can learn and get the initials behind your name or whatever you need to feel confident and to be able to reach people and enable them to trust you, and then thus be able to help people. And so that was, very, very crucial for me, was getting my NTP credentials so that I knew exactly what I was doing.
Right. Awesome.
And then, from there, again, going back to the journey, then you just go for it. I think it's very tempting once you graduate, again, back to the comparison, being like, okay, here I am, I've graduated and I know all this stuff. So let's get going, right? Where are my clients? Come on, everyone. Right. So just know that it'll be a journey and don't get discouraged. When I first graduated, I was like that. I was like, where are my clients? Where are they? And I was thinking, gosh, maybe, I don't know what I'm doing, but you do. And if you've gone through a program like the NTA, you absolutely have enough knowledge to be able to get out there and go for it. So go for it, and then don't get discouraged if it doesn't come, because it.
It looks like we might have a drop connection with Bella again. Let's see here. In the audience, can you let us know, are you able to hear me? Are you able to, does it look like Bella is frozen as well? Let's see here. Okay, looks like Bella is frozen again. Okay, so just a sec. Just coordinating with Bella offline here. And while we have Bella reconnecting, just want to hop into the comments. Alana mentioned that she's planning on starting in February and that Bella's giving her so much hope. That's so great, Alana. We can't wait to have you in the NTA program in February. It looks like Mallory is graduating at the end of this month. Awesome. That is very exciting, Mallory. Very, very cool. And Annie mentions that she is signed up for the February course in Dallas, which is very exciting. Oh, okay, great. It looks like Bella.
Am I back?
It looks like Bella's back.
Hello?
Yes, perfect.
Yay!
Sorry about that.
I don't know what's happening, if it's my connection or what's the deal, but I'm back.
No,
so that's
no
good.
problem. You are
Yay.
totally back. Great. And so let's see where we were. Thank you for what you were talking about with having those tools from the NTA, because another thing that I wanted to mention that I think you expressed so beautifully was how, as practitioners, right after we graduate, like you said, if you don't have those clients lining up at the door for you, you might feel like, oh gosh, do I know enough? What, is this not going to work? And so I just love that you pointed out, as an NTA graduate, you absolutely know enough. You have more than enough tools to make such a tremendous impact in people's lives. And sometimes it takes a little bit to get that business going. So I really appreciate you speaking to that. And I'd love to know, so in that time for you, when you were feeling like, is this going to work? I'm not quite sure. What were the next steps that you took? Like, what were some of those, if you can look back, what did you feel were sort of the game-changing next steps that you took to start seeing those results in your business and start really seeing things move forward?
Totally, yeah. And so for me, it's really been all about marketing. And as I mentioned before, what works for me may not work for you. So don't listen to this and think, oh, I have to do this. Again, you'll figure it out. There are so many different ways to market your brand and your business. But one thing that really, really worked for me is actually live video. I think having your own story and being able to connect with people on a very personal level is crucial. I know when I shop, and I love to shop local and support local brands, I love to know who is selling the product or who is selling the service. So I know who I'm supporting and I know what I'm getting into when I buy something. So I think sharing your story is crucial. Don't be afraid to let people in. And that was key for me. And I was able to relate to a lot of people with Billy's story and with my own digestive issues. So with the live video, it's a really interesting, actually, and this is not off topic, but a little bit. But 2 years ago, I went on a tour with a well-known documentary. And when we first started the tour, we had no followers at all. No one was really interested, maybe a few hundred. A year later, at the end of the tour, we had hundreds of thousands.
Wow.
And none of us were marketing people at all. None of us have a background in marketing, and none of us really knew what we were doing. But the one thing that we did was live video. Pretty much, every day or every other day, we'd get on there. And even if we didn't really have something very poised and proper to say, we were just on there connecting with people, letting them in to what was going on, letting them into our lives. And I think that's been a really great marketing strategy, so to say, but it comes very naturally. If you're, willing and able to get out there and say, here I am, I've just graduated from the NTA, this is my story, and I would be honored to help you with your health. I think people can relate to that, and they like to get to know you, and then they'll be able to trust you and then hopefully work with you. And nearly all my clients have come from social media and from connecting and actually building a relationship. They say, I feel like I know you when they first speak to me, and it's because I've opened up and let them in. And I think that's really important. Another thing, of course, is social media. And this is a no-brainer. I think in today's society, you really do need to get on social media with your business. Again, as I mentioned, social media can be a huge blessing, and it can also be something that makes you feel pretty down about yourself. So I think it's important to schedule detoxes where maybe once a week you don't go on social media, and the rest of it, just be very organic. That's my strategy, so to say. I'm not personally into kind of paid ads and bots, but again, some people that works great for. For me, again, it's just kind of creating unique and relevant content for people. The recipes that I share on my social media are recipes that I've made for dinner the night before. It's very authentic and real, and that works for me. So maybe give that a go too. And then the last thing, which is kind of a new strategy that I've kind of been experiencing, is good old-fashioned networking. Actually, so I've just moved to Virginia from Austin, Texas, and I've joined 3 different local groups and organizations. One of them, for example, is like a small business women's group, and we meet every week and we have a power session where we discuss kind of Instagram techniques, things like taxes, all the really important but not so fun stuff that you need to know as a business owner. And most importantly, you connect with people in your community. And so I know if I ever need a photographer, for example, or need to recommend a photographer, I know a great lady in my group that I'll recommend. And vice versa, they know if they ever hear of someone needing help with nutrition or eating real food or meal prepping or anything, they know, oh, Bella from Bella Grace Wellness. I would love to recommend her because I know her. So don't be afraid to kind of put yourself out there in your local community and join groups and make connections, because there's nothing really like face-to-face interaction. I feel like that's the most powerful tool of all. So that's worked great for me too, but I'm still learning. Every single day, I'm just kind of learning new techniques and evolving, and don't be afraid to switch things up and try new things.
Such great advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so a couple questions for you on those things. So one is, when you talk about sharing video and like you were doing with that documentary almost on a daily basis, what platforms did you find? Like what video platforms? Was that on Instagram? Was that Facebook Live? Was that on YouTube? What sort of channels did you do those videos on? Yeah,
so when we were on tour, we primarily used Facebook Live. We actually didn't even have an Instagram. We did Facebook Live and also Periscope. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. But honestly, I think whether you do Instagram Live, an Instagram story, a Facebook Live, a YouTube channel with either interviews or kind of a more personal vlog, or, you know, something where you sit down and talk about nutrition, or a recipe video, I think people love just seeing you in front of the screen. I know that I love watching people. You know, I don't necessarily love watching slides or just letters and numbers. I like engaging with people. And so I think regardless of what platform you use, and again, I think really tap into your community that you are marketing towards, and feel like, you know, figure out where they are. For me, it's Facebook. Majority of my community is on Facebook. So for me, Facebook Live videos are probably the most effective tool. So yeah, just get to know your community, and why not go on them all, you know? Give them all a go and see which one works for you. Don't be afraid to test the waters, but get out there. It's scary, but you can do it.
Absolutely. And how would you suggest going about finding their community, or finding where their community is hanging out? Do you have any tips or suggestions if somebody knows what their hardship was, what their passion is, what they want to teach, but they're not really sure where to find their people or where to go to connect with them? Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, totally. So again, firstly, finding your community, I think personally, is hugely related to your why. I'll use my story as an example with Billy. It was autism, and that's kind of my biggest passion, is helping those in the autism community. So I immediately started to get plugged in wherever possible. I would join local Facebook communities, Facebook groups like siblings of those with autism, parents of those with autism, support group for families with autism. And don't go in there thinking, oh, look at all these potential clients. Go in there thinking, I want to make connections. I want to build community. I want to build friendships and relationships and connect about my why. And the great thing about social media is when one person finds you and falls in love with your brand, they'll share it with their friends and say, hey, look, I've built a relationship with this awesome person on social media. I love her content. I love her recipes. And it grows. So again, like, don't be afraid to just put yourself out there and say, you know, hey, this is my story. I hope that I can connect with some of you. And take the time to really connect with people. Don't just treat someone as like a follower behind a screen. Make the conscious effort to get to know them and get to know their why as well. And it will grow. People will share and talk about it, and it will grow.
I love that mindset piece you bring into it with how to approach these people, how to approach this community really with that mindset of service, of connection, not just could they be a potential client, but really how can I connect and serve with these people, and that authenticity that you're talking about there, that genuine interest in people and that genuine desire to help, I think is so powerful. And I just so really love how you describe that. And
thank you. Yeah, it's
that.
important.
So it is. It really is. It definitely is. And then the other question I had regarding those the networking networking group that you found, what suggestions could you give people for finding a networking group like that in their community?
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds obvious, but Google is honestly your greatest friend when it comes to things like this. You could even start by typing in, women's small business networking group in wherever you live. For me, Yorktown, Virginia, and a ton of different organizations will come up. And a lot of them are actually kind of registered nonprofit organizations that are specifically dedicated to helping people like us grow our businesses from scratch. And that's awesome. There are also apps now that you can download, like Meetup is one, and you can type in your interests. And there are actually a lot of nutrition and wellness groups. And so I think kind of try different ones, maybe join a nutrition and wellness group, maybe join a women's small business group. But it is definitely about reaching out and saying, hello, here I am. Don't expect them to just come to you. But yeah, just go for it. Find them on Google and just try, and then see which one kind of matches and feels like a good fit for you, and then run with it.
Great advice. Great advice. And one of the things that some of our practitioners can feel challenged by is this feeling of not wanting to come across as too salesy or too pushy. And that can be a challenge with converting people to clients or starting that conversation, that sales conversation or that client conversation. Right. I'd love to hear how you've navigated that and any tips you have on that.
Yeah, so this is actually something that I used to be terrified of. I used to be so afraid of what people would think of me, and I was terrified that people would think that I was trying to push a view on them, or I was trying to say, buy this and you'll feel great kind of thing. My way around it was give up on that fear. You can't have that fear. What I've come to learn is that not everyone will love what you do, and not everyone will hate what you do. There are going to be people on both sides. So just embrace that. As long as you know your truth and your why and your passion, just run with it. I also think if you're passionate about something, you can't come across as salesy, because you're doing it from a genuine place. You're not doing it, oh, come buy my stuff. You're doing it because you know that what you've learned at, say, the NTA is truly going to benefit and transform someone's life. So as long as you're coming from a good place, and it will be very easy to tell yourself whether you are or not. I think other people can see that too. So I honestly just think it's about being very comfortable with what you believe and what you're passionate about, and sharing it with others as a gift rather than, as making a sale. I also think if you are very afraid, and I get it because I was there, resort back to your story, resort back to your why. I often find that a lot of people can argue with me when I write or share, resources like articles and like nutrition articles and publications and things. But when I share my story, that's my life story. That's my testimony. And people listen, and they can't say anything because that's my life. That's my experience. It's what I witnessed in my brother. It's what I witnessed in my own digestive issues. So I think, if you're afraid, resort back to your story and just share it with people. And if they don't like it, they don't like it, but at least you're trying.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, this has been so valuable. I really appreciate you taking the time with us here. Any last parting words of advice or wisdom for our audience, people who have their own story, want to share it, might be afraid to do so or hesitant to do so? Any last parting words for them?
I would just say go for it. I was terrified too. I think remember that it's a journey, and just go for it, run with it, and you'll not regret it. It's the most rewarding thing ever to be able to live out your passion. Even if at first, you know, you're really struggling and you can't support yourself and you feel like you don't know what you're doing, it will come. And as long as you never give up, you will get there. So go for it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much again, Bella. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
All right. And thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.